Hello and welcome on the Watches TV. Welcome at the Watches Club here in Geneva for yet another birthday celebration. And I believe I have something which will surprise you in this nice little package in front of me. And I have yet another surprise coming for you in a very short while. But okay, let's start and go for some serious and efficient gift unwrapping. Okay, as you can see, this is a Grand Seiko box, and let's continue by opening. Alright, first stage. And here we have a certificate of warranty. Let's continue this little operation. Here we go, yet another box. Here you have the operating manual of the watch that we're going to discover here. And on this side you have another space for another little bracelet which normally comes with it. Let's open the box here. And there you go. So here we go, and today we have the privilege of discovering together a watch, part of the 60th anniversary celebration of the first Grand Seiko, launched in 1960. So this watch is the professional diver's 600 meter, but most importantly, it is equipped with nothing less than the very latest version of the brand's famous spring drive movement, called here the Calibre 9RA5. It's thinner than the previous version, only 5mm. It has an extended power reserve of 120 hours, that's 5 days, pretty convenient. And most significantly, it is even more reliable and accurate with an announced plus or minus 10 seconds variation per month. That's seriously impressive. Before this, variation was set at plus or minus 15 seconds per month. That was already pretty good. So, but before coming back on this rather fascinating movement with our little surprise, and I think you'll be very happy with this. But as this watch's name implies, this is a certified diver's watch, naturally quite recognizable with this unidirectional bezel, this screw-down crown, which has in a certain way 3 positions. Once the crown is unscrewed, you can naturally wind the watch, which of course is an automatic. In position 2, you can adjust the date seen here at 4 o'clock. And when the crown is fully pulled, you can set the time, and as you can see, the seconds hands does stop, allowing for some very precise time setting. And with such an accurate movement, it makes of course plenty of sense to monitor this. So this watch also features a helium valve, something quite new for their diving watch. And overall, this enables to achieve a water resistance of 600 meters for those interested going as deep as this. Okay, I know it doesn't concern that many people, I agree. And yes, for these reasons, this watch is quite thick, in fact, 16mm. And in terms of case size, it's also quite large, 46.9mm. And in terms of material, it's made out of special high-intensity titanium, as well as the bracelet, a material which is actually more scratch-resistant than usual titanium used in watchmaking. So talking about the bracelet, well, it naturally features security folding clasp, and for info, this watch also comes, like I mentioned just before, with another blue rubber bracelet, which unfortunately I couldn't show you today. So on the dial side, well, it's quite classical, but cool looking. And at 10 o'clock, well, you will find a power reserve indicator indicating you quite precisely these very comfortable 5 days of power reserved. This is something achieved with the use of 2 barrels. So as I mentioned, this timepiece is part of the brand's 60th anniversary, special pieces introduced gradually this year. And for this reason, it's actually a limited edition, and in this case, up to 700 pieces. But before coming back more in detail on this specific movement, just wanted to mention that if you want to know more about the Seiko Group, I clearly invite you to check out one of our Who's Who of Watchmaking video dedicated to its history, as we had the chance of going to Japan last year. Yeah, those were the days when we could sit in planes. Ah, those good old days. Well, in this video, you'll know all on how things started, and it's really a very interesting story, quite complicated. So link above, but let's now go for the surprise, and yes, here we go. So yes, we're joined today again with our good friend, Mr. Peter, known as the Naked Watchmaker, because he had the privilege of actually deconstructing some of those spring drive movements, and we're going to go a little bit more in details on the specificities of this movement. So welcome, Peter.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Good. So, tell us all about it.
So, last year, I was given the opportunity to go to Japan, and I spent about 3 weeks there touring around Japan. And a good part of it, nearly about 10 days, 12 days, I spent with Grand Seiko and Credo. And myself and my son, who was traveling with me, we did deconstructions on the spring drive chronograph GMT, as well as the Snowflake. With all of those watches, if anybody is interested, they can go to the Naked Watchmaker, and in the Naked Watchmaker, under the large brand section, you'll be able to actually see these watches dismantled. When I went over, I had no real predetermined understanding of what I was going to come across. The result, however, was extraordinary. Apart from the fact that I love Japan, the culture, the Japanese people, every business, every company, every watch company has their own culture. Same in Switzerland. But when you jump over to Japan, it's again something very, very different. And we ended up going right inside of the pieces. What I didn't understand beforehand, which I learned then, was how they had really combined the elements of mechanical timekeeping or mechanical drive, which is eternal, which carries on forever because there's no batteries inside of it. But then instead of having the traditional balance, the regulator, which allows the mainspring to run down at a certain rate, they use a quartz system, an IC system, but without any additional power source. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. So it's not a balance. It's what they call a glide wheel. So the mainspring powers a train. The train then goes to a glide wheel. The glide wheel is turning around constantly. I think it's something like 15 revolutions per second. So it's moving at quite a rate. And this in turn is why when you actually look at the timepieces with the spring drive, the actual seconds hand is running around fluidly.
Yeah, it's so smooth. I mean, it's really one of the distinct signatures.
It's nice, and it's silent.
Yes.
So there's something akin to time, because when you have a seconds hand, is it like a second before? Is it a second slow? Is it a second fast? Where is the time? So with the spring drive system, it is always, in a sense, exactly on time. Okay, so I mean, it's kind of a philosophical thing. In a way. It's not maybe necessary, but it's a beautiful element, and it's something which signifies a spring drive timepiece. The actual system, they call it, I think it's tri-synchro, if I've got that right. So you have the mainspring, which causes the glide wheel to rotate quite quickly. Attached to the glide wheel, you have a magnet. This magnet is then encapsulated by other contacts, which then drives creates electricity in the same way as you will have a dynamo on a bike as the wheel turns around. Then you have light being produced. But in this instance, the power produced goes into an IC circuit, which is then which then powers the quartz crystal. Mm-hmm. The quartz crystal then leads back to the IC, and the IC will then in turn break, when necessary, the actual gliding system. And that gliding system is then what ensures that the watch is actually running down effectively at a constant rate. The nice thing about it, or the thing which I respect them for, is that it's actually quite a brave thing to do, to integrate mechanics along with quartz. Quartz traditionally has this impression of being something sort of mass-produced and low quality. But here, they've taken the positive elements of a mechanical watch, i.e. a mechanical power, and then combined it with the electronics advantage of a quartz and the precision, put the two together, and you have kind of an eternal watch. You have something which is mechanical, but doesn't require the battery, that will carry on in essence for forever, like a conventional mechanical watch, but with greater precision than you have on 99.9% of all mechanical watches made.
Yeah, no, that lets them achieve, I mean, incredible
absolutely
reliability performances. Yeah.
And the actual spring drive, the concept came out in the mid to late 70s, but it wasn't actually commercially released into the market until I believe it was like the late 90s. So they spent about 20 years in the development, the trial and error process, the testing of the piece to be able to actually get to the point where they had something which they felt confident about, which was actually accurate, which was proven, which would actually have the longevity. Everything that they wanted was a 20-year process. So it's actually, that's pretty extraordinary for a company, for any company, and a company outside of Switzerland to spend so long in actually perfecting a new mechanism. So, and the workshops that we visited were as unusual and as unique in a sense as the product, as the watches are. One of the main workshops we visited, they had an air purification system where there were filters in the floor, in the ceilings, in the surrounding all the benches, so that there was no dust, there was nothing at all present. Which is, it's always, you've got to have like a white room. Every workshop needs to be like that, but I've never seen anything quite that extreme. I mean, you can't drop anything on the floor because you lose it. In the development of this new caliber, they have decreased the thickness of the caliber from 5.8 millimeters down to 5 millimeters. Doesn't seem like a great deal, but they actually have to revisit the entire production of the caliber to be able to make that step.
And that's obviously something that you don't necessarily immediately grasp when you see these timepieces, because it is quite thick, because it's a diver's watch. Yeah.
They've also increased the precision of the piece. So instead of prior, it was approximately plus or minus 15 seconds per month. Now they're down to 10 seconds per month. So every step is a real evolution in the development of the caliber. So these percentages are actually quite considerable when you reflect on them. And that whole process, again, it takes years of development every time that they do something like this.
Yeah. And passing from plus minus 15 seconds to plus 10 seconds doesn't sound, I mean, that much in a certain way. Over a month period, it's very relative. But to achieve those 5 seconds extra of precision, I mean, requires a lot of, of development.
It's with any development of any caliber, there's already a huge amount of work. And then afterwards, there's this consistent, continual aspiration to do better and better. And then afterwards, there's incremental improvements in precision, in efficiency, in power reserve, in accuracy, which is, in a sense, it becomes harder and harder and harder. And that's what they've done with this, and that is why it's important as a 60th anniversary piece as well.
Coming from a really regular mechanical world of watchmaking, and the combination of these two technologies, what do you feel about it?
Before I understood it, and before I understood Grand Seiko and Credo as companies, I was probably fairly dismissive, because it's like you hear the word quartz and it's quartz. Yeah. Okay, it's just like, well, this is nothing particularly special. But their aspiration was to do something that had never been done before. So they've taken the mechanical side and improved it. They've taken the quartz aspect of it, and they have gone a stage further with that to increase the precision, but also they have added sensors within the movement, so that if there are any significant variations in temperature, the actual quartz will actually compensate, or the IC will compensate for the variations in temperature, which may have an effect on the quartz. So it's like they're small things, but they're actually quite significant in relation to the improvement and the goal to be able to take something which is good and then make it better. So to answer your question, now that I understand it, I have kind of like the utmost respect for it. And I love this kind of the ingenuity or the innovation of taking two totally separate types of technologies, putting them together, combining them, and then making it better and better. I respect the product and I respect the company for actually having made those steps to be able to produce something that they can feel confident with, that will provide good service, will provide ultimately a great product, a great watch for the end consumer.
And something I didn't demonstrate in the first part of this video is that, okay, we know it's a diver's watch, but when you're diving, you might wear a wetsuit, or you're going without a wetsuit, so obviously the size of your wrist might change a little bit. And I told you about the folding clasp, but there is a little trick, a little mechanism additional to this, and that you could demonstrate for us, please.
For the wetsuit, for the extra thickness, to be able to actually extend it, instead of having like some calibers, some bracelets will have a folding mechanism which is within it. So you pull up the cap, you push it just gently, and then the lower blade will actually pull out. And you have serrated sections here on the inside so that you can actually then adjust it to exactly a comfortable fit.
And you have, yeah, quite a lot of options.
Yeah. So it's nice. It's kind of simple, but making things simple and sort of new things is actually quite complex. And these are not watches which are made uniquely. There's quite a large series of these pieces which will follow. So they have to work. Yeah. So again, even with a small detail like that, they would have spent a considerable amount of time to ensure that it works. Yes. And work not only occasionally, but for longevity, and if the thing is clean, dirty, it has to be something which is actually very efficient.
Yes.
Okay, so they didn't have to do that. No. There are other systems which are easier, but they wanted to make it special, they wanted to make it unique, so they ended up developing the system.
So as mentioned, this is the first time we see this new Calibre encased in a Grand Seiko watch, but we're obviously going to, we're pretty sure that we're going to see this new spring drive movement in other watches. Again, this is a limited edition for the 60th anniversary, limited to 700 pieces. And also coming back again on this Who's Who of Watchmaking, again, I clearly invite you to check it out because it's really interesting to figure out a little bit the complexity of all these companies around Seiko. You know, it's a complicated group, but a fascinating one. Well, thank you for watching. Thanks for your time. See you real soon, and Viva Watchmaking!